You ever celebrate a holiday that's, just yours? Not a birthday, not an anniversary, but a day that just means freedom. Well, today, we're diving into a story about one of those days, an unofficial holiday born inside Microsoft that some people call Christmas in July. And trust me, it's a wild story about workplace culture and just how much one person at the top can change everything. All right, so get this. Every single year, on July 7th, the person who told this story celebrates something he calls Name Redacted Day. It's not on any calendar you've ever seen, no fireworks, no big parties. It's just the anniversary of one single event, an event that was so liberating it felt like it deserved its own holiday. Because on July 7th, 2016, just a totally normal Thursday, Microsoft's chief operating officer left the company. And for the people who worked for him, the news, which just came in a simple email, felt like this incredible, unexpected gift. It was, just as he puts it, a real-life Christmas in July. Now, of course, the official company email was super professional, very buttoned up. But behind the scenes, the reaction was the complete opposite. People were lighting up those anonymous work chat apps with just pure joy. The feeling was so intense that our author actually took his family out for a celebratory dinner that night, not for a promotion, but for a departure. And that day became his personal holiday, a reminder that things can and do get better. So, to really get why an executive leaving would make people so happy, we've got to go back a few years, to 2011. Our author had just joined Microsoft, and he was so excited. He saw it as this amazing playground for ideas, a place to solve huge problems with brilliant people and actually make a difference. But that dream, it soured really, really fast. And this pretty much sums up the change. The dream of tackling big, interesting problems with smart colleagues just devolved into this nightmare of filling out checklists and dealing with constant anxiety. That promise of making a real impact, it got buried under these endless, soul-crushing scorecards. The creative playground had turned into a prison. And the reason for this shift was the COO's management style. He basically brought this intense, big-box retail mentality to a creative tech company. What that meant was a top-down obsession with metrics. Execution was the only word that mattered, and it just completely choked out any kind of creativity. Leadership wasn't about inspiring people, it was about enforcing rules. And the result, as our author puts it so perfectly, an entire org chart just soaked in the stress hormone, cortisol. And if you want one single story that captures this culture of fear, this is it. An anecdote he calls the $5 fire drill. It's the perfect, tiny example of just how broken things had become. So here's what happened. The author is on a work flight. He buys in-flight Wi-Fi so he can, do his job. It costs $5. That tiny little expense report set off a full-blown panic. We're talking frantic emails, meetings. His manager and even his manager's manager pulled him aside for this mini intervention, terrified of the COO's reaction. They literally warned him, "You never know who's watching." Let's just all pause on that number for a second. $5. Not $5,000, not even 50. $5. The reaction was so completely out of proportion, so dripping with fear that it just became this defining memory of what it was like to work there. It's just absurd. It really makes you wonder, right? What was the actual cost of this whole thing? I mean, when you add up the salary and the time of every single manager involved in this little drama, what did the company really save by freaking out over a $5 Wi-Fi charge? Yeah, the company saved nothing. The real cost, that was paid by the employees. It cost them their time, their morale, and frankly, their dignity. The lesson they learned wasn't about being responsible with money. It was that fear was the only thing that really mattered to the people in charge. And then, one day, that email landed. The news that the COO was leaving spread like an absolute wildfire. And the feeling of relief, you could almost touch it. On Blind, that anonymous app for employees, the comments just started flowing in. It was like champagne popping after a prison break. I mean, this first comment just says it all, doesn't it? His leaving wasn't just some HR news. It felt like a holiday, a gift that arrived right after the 4th of July. You can just feel the total disbelief in this one. After years living under that kind of system, the idea of freedom it didn't feel real. People had gotten so used to the culture of fear that when it was suddenly gone, it was almost too good to be true.
And this quote, wow, this one says everything. It speaks to this crushing weight that had finally been lifted. This wasn't just about work anymore. It was about something fundamental, something human, the ability to just breathe, to relax your shoulders and feel like a trusted professional again.
So, why does he still celebrate this day all these years later? Well, because this story isn't just about one guy at one company. It's a really powerful lesson for all of us about leadership, about culture, and about what actually makes a company a great place to work. And hey, it wasn't just our author who felt this way. This comment from another person popped up recently, and it just shows how deep the feeling went. The observation here is that the damage was seen as huge and long-lasting. This wasn't just about a bad quarter. It was about fundamentally changing a company's culture for the worse. So yeah, the celebration continues. And it's a reminder of some really simple but powerful truths. That leadership really, really matters. That a great company is so much more than its spreadsheets and metrics. That fear is the enemy of innovation. That a $5 Wi-Fi charge should never, ever cause a corporate crisis. And that the feeling of freedom, well, that's always worth remembering. And that's really the thought to leave you with. The story of this unofficial holiday is a stark reminder of all the hidden costs of bad leadership. It really makes you ask, beyond the salaries, beyond the overhead, what is the real price a company, and more importantly, its people, pay for a culture built on fear? That's something to think about.